So the opportunities again, I guess I just want to hammer it. Somebody like yourself that grows progressively in the sport, especially in the high school ranks, it clicks for you. Maybe your senior year, but for in your case, absolutely your senior year, and you quote unquote fall in love with the sport. That's what we like to say, right? When did it happen for you?
Yeah.
You're in love with the sport. You realize that you're going to be a Buckeye academically, right? This is where you're going to go to your school, and you just happen to stumble upon somebody wrestling, some other people wrestling, and you were able to still continue that love for the sport. Where you sit right now, what would you say to all of the hundreds of kids that are like you in high school right now that think, number one, it's D1 or bust, and number two, there's no way I'm good enough to go D1?
Yeah, I would say to them, that opportunity to, I mean, for one, it's not D1 or bust, as I found out going to college. Um, like I said, it's there's that opportunity to compete is out there, and the NCAA offers that opportunity to everybody. And I guess I should mention that. So a lot of the schools that are in the NCAA are there's a couple different there's two different divisions. Division one NCAA or NCAA teams. Their school doesn't have a varsity team. So some of these schools that they go to, um, for instance, like Toledo, the University of Toledo doesn't have a varsity team. Their club team is their varsity team, and they've got great funding. They've got their own room, and a lot of SEC schools like Clemson,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of SEC schools that you don't see, like you see them on TV playing football.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have wrestling teams. They got rid of the wrestling teams quite a few years ago.
Yeah, they used to. Clemson, Tennessee, right? They used to have those varsity sports.
Yep. They're also Division One NCAA teams. It's pretty cool to see their logos on those singlets because you don't see them like in college or in NCAA wrestling. But the NCAA, they're Division One schools for the NCAA, and their teams are their varsity teams, and they're really good. Um, some notable teams are like Central Florida was a powerhouse in the NCAA. They they're really really good NCAA team. Liberty University is extremely good NCAA Division One school. But so for us guys at Ohio State, where we do have a varsity team, we're Division Two NCAA, and that opportunity is also out there for us because even though we're in a different division, we all compete at the same nationals. There's no Division One, Division Two nationals. We all compete against each other. And last year, Ohio State Wrestling Club, we finished third place for the first. We had our first team placing in our club history in Division Two. So all those teams that have varsity, or all those colleges that have varsity teams, they're all Division Two teams, and they're all extremely competitive as well. There's a Penn State Wrestling Club. There's a Wisconsin Wrestling Club. I was friends with a lot of good guys from there. There's obviously Ohio State. There's so many teams out there, man, and there's well over 100 teams, and I think it approaches 200. It just depends on how many guys compete for those teams. And the big ones that you notice are the ones that have a lot of traction with their own school, which Ohio State Wrestling Club is definitely getting up there now.
And you guys would compete and can compete in opens. So you can compete against NCAA wrestlers. I see it a lot at the beginning of the year in a lot of these opens, Mount Union Open. I know you went to that one several times, if not all 4 years, right?
Yep.
So you would wrestle against D3 guys and in opens, it's D2 guys and Division One guys, right?
Yeah. The biggest the biggest selling point, the biggest opportunity for me was I wanted to be super competitive. Like I'm very competitive by nature, and I didn't. When I tried to walk onto the varsity and I got cut from the varsity, I still wanted to compete at a high level. And I was able to participate in open tournaments with the backups from Ohio State's varsity. And actually, me and Zach Steiner, who is a backup for Ohio State right now, we actually ended up crossing paths in the bracket, and he edged me out by I think 1 or 2 points. So, but yeah, I think one of the biggest selling points for me for competing in the NCAA was I got to go to those open tournaments and compete with, I mean, quality talent from Division I schools, Division II schools, Division III schools, and also like JUCO schools and NAIA schools. It's not just other clubs that we compete with. We go to open tournaments and we get all levels of competition, and some very high level competition, and getting to go to those tournaments with the backups on the varsity for Ohio State kind of speaks to what kind of tournaments you're going to. Like there a lot of talented kids there.
Yeah, it's not just backups; it's the red shirts. So it's the future, some of the future starters that are being redshirted, and they're going to these open tournaments too.
Yeah, like I remember seeing one of the Decaters there.
Mm-hmm.
Sammy Sasso was there, and I think when I saw him, at least he wasn't competing; he was actually helping coach with Jaggers. And I mean, Malik actually. I think he was competing at some of the opens that I went to. But yeah, man, I mean, they're all those redshirt guys and the backups are going to those tournaments, and they're extremely competitive. And the club wrestling team, being a part of the NCAA, we had those opportunities as well. So those opportunities are open to guys who want to be extremely competitive. It's not just D1 or bust. Like we're there with them. Like we're there with them at those tournaments, at those opens.
And now those same opportunities are afforded to the newly formed women's club team, right?
Yeah, the NCAA actually is, I think, spearheading the like women's wrestling. That we have, like they have their own national tournament alongside with us as a part of the NCAA, and there's full women's teams competing in that national tournament. I think, if I remember right, I think Florida has a great team. And there's a lot of other like great women's teams that compete in that tournament, and they have their own national tournament, and their placement matches are right alongside the men's placement matches in the national tournament. And the NCAA is doing a great job spearheading like that opportunity to grow women's wrestling as well. So it's awesome. It's great.
So to summarize the point that I keep trying to drive home, opportunity. It's rampant. If you decide academically on a school, make sure you check to see if there's a club team in that school. And guess what? If there isn't, you can start one, right?
Yeah, you can start one. I mean, when we started out as a student organization and not an official club sport at Ohio State, we did our own fundraising and we started one. Like we really got the ball rolling. We started our own GoFundMe. We raised some money in that way. We partnered with like Chipotle and had like nights where we would some of the proceeds would go to our program. So and we even got the support of some donors. I mean, there were talks. Like I said, Tom Ryan was in connection with my coach, Coach David Rourke, and they were in talks of getting some donations from some varsity donors. I mean, the opportunity is there, and if it's not, you can create one at your own school. And the NCAA, I mean, they've been spearheading women's wrestling and growing that, and I think they have big goals of growing wrestling as a whole. So I mean, they're opening new clubs with open arms, and it's awesome. It's great.